Last week, we covered the first video of why your husband doesn't want to sleep with you, where we covered the first 3 reasons. And if you happen to miss that, the first was that his testosterone is low. The second is that his wife's appearance deviated too far from what he signed up for. And third was that he got mentally turned off due to her being a chronically disrespectful and contentious woman. And today we're going to cover the last 4 reasons. So let's go ahead and get right into it. The 4th reason why your husband doesn't want to sleep with you is that you rejected him one too many times. Ladies, lean in, listen close. Sex is a man's #1 priority. To be clear, your husband needs you to prioritize sex with him. He married you with that expectation, perhaps naively, that marriage would mean a consistent flow of sexual opportunities with you. And if he believed that wouldn't be the case, he would have never walked down the aisle with you. And I know that this expectation has never been explicitly stated to you, not by your husband, your parents, your church leaders, or anyone else for that matter. So let me be the one to lay it out as clearly and as bluntly as I can so you can reprioritize your efforts as a wife. Sex is and will always be your husband's #1 priority. Now, many women mistakenly believe that for men that sex is purely about the physical release. And sure, that's part of it, but it's not the whole picture. If it was, what need would there be for you? He has a perfectly good hand that knows all the right moves. But for men, sex is his primary way of his heart emotionally connecting with you. So when he attempts to share that with you and you repeatedly reject him or unilaterally decided that you want to make him into an involuntary monk, you're not just rejecting the act, but he views it as a rejection of him as a person and a rejection of the love that he has for you. So if it's a not tonight, honey, and it's a not tomorrow or the next night or the next night after that, and this rejection continues indefinitely, there's only so much rejection a human can take before he will completely give up and stop trying. He has no choice but to emotionally distance himself, to pull away from you to emotionally protect himself. And any attempts at trying to make him feel bad about his natural, God-given desire for you, and for women in general, does not mean that there's anything wrong with him. Most men are not sex-obsessed, crazed men who need to see the doctor simply because your sexual drive took a dump. Yes, it's on their minds, probably more than you will ever know. That's simply just how men are designed. And can I just add that I don't even understand why a man having a high sex drive for his wife is a problem? What, do you want him to find you ugly or disgusting or something? I don't understand the logic. Because if my husband ever stopped wanting to get naked with me, I'd be seriously worried. A man's sexual desire doesn't disappear, but it may fade for you if you repeatedly show yourself to be unreceptive. When you reject a man over and over and over again, he will at some point emotionally disconnect from you as a means to protect himself. But that does not mean that his drive is gone. It just simply means it's not directed towards you. Sex and respect are core needs for men, just like love and safety are core needs for women. And a solid marriage requires that those core needs are met. So when a husband's core need of respect and sex go unmet, he becomes highly susceptible to other women who are always on the prowl for great men, even the married ones. And even though most men don't go actively searching for women when living in a sexless marriage situation, the woman who comes in and makes him feel like a man again, who recognizes and sees him, that is almost impossible to walk away from. And I know what you're saying. You're probably saying, well, Monica, he should just have some self-control. I mean, I get it. That's probably what I would have said just 5 years ago myself, before I experienced for myself just how profoundly testosterone impacts your sex drive. You don't know what you don't know. It's unrealistic to expect a man to maintain self-control indefinitely when you have rejected him time and time again. If your husband used to initiate often and then suddenly stopped, this is likely why. And ironically, you might feel relieved. Like, oh, thank God. But ladies, if you're not attracted to your husband enough to enthusiastically engage with him at least once a week, like, what are you doing? It's 15 minutes out of your life. This is a man you profess to love. If this is where you're at in your level of selfishness, you need to seriously reconsider if you are meant to be a married woman. I mean, can you imagine a man saying, well, why do you want to talk to me? Didn't we just talk yesterday? We did that last week. Why should I have to talk to you? I don't feel the need to talk. Can you take care of that by yourself? Isn't there any other person you could do that with? That's exactly what you're doing to a man. Sex is a man's version of talking. So if you refuse to provide your husband with that means of emotionally connecting with you, just because you don't think it's important or you're not in the mood that day or whatever the many lame excuses, I would find that equally as unacceptable. And just as a side note, if you are a woman who is mature enough to realize that Sometimes you need to show up for him. If you have the maturity to do that, make sure that you are not doing so like Patrick from SpongeBob and go full on starfish, just laying there, sighing, and asking if he's done yet. For a man, that's worse than you not showing up at all. If you need to channel someone, channel Angelina Jolie or someone like that. So if it's gotten to the point where your husband is no longer interested in having sex with you, he used to initiate, but now he doesn't, and he's now the one who actively rejects you, this is highly likely at least part of the reason, coupled with the disrespect element that we discussed in the last video. And for the ladies who are listening and you aren't at this point yet, make a mental note. An optimal acceptance to rejection ratio should run about 10 yeses to 1 no. Let's go ahead and move on. Today's episode is sponsored by Cup Cozy Pillow. It is the world's best cup holder. And I'm not just saying this because I'm the inventor and the owner. Seriously, go to Amazon. We have over 10,000 reviews. So if you ever need a cup holder anywhere you don't have one, Cup Cozy Pillow is where it's at. Next, I'd like to remind you that I have a new free community. It's just really a great place where we take the conversations we started here and move them off to a different platform to where we can have an ongoing discussion. Did you know that I have been friend zoned by 81% of my viewers? That is right. 81% of you guys who watch my channel have not subscribed. So, well, don't friend zone me, okay? The fifth reason why your husband doesn't want to sleep with you is he's distracted with dopamine hits. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter, a chemical messenger in the brain that plays a role in how we feel pleasure, motivation, and reward. It's often called the feel-good chemical because it's released during enjoyable activities. And in today's modern society, we have all kinds of unlimited options in which to choose how we're going to get our dopamine fix. There's food, there's video games, there's gambling, there's using drugs, there's social media, there's watching TV. And all the methods in which you can get a dopamine fix are problematic. Some of them are actually considered healthy and good. Things like exercising, social connections, listening to music, or learning a new skill or activity. But there are two in particular that are extremely problematic when it comes to affecting a man's desire to have sex with his wife. The first is what I will call adult online entertainment. Now, most men dabble in this type of entertainment to some point to supplement their sex drive. And that's normal to a degree. But when casual use turns excessive, that's when things start becoming dangerous. What starts off as a minimal or sporadic use to supplement a man's inherently strong drive, many times so he doesn't overwhelm his wife with her lower libido, then turns into a complete replacement. Add in living with a chronically disrespectful woman who consistently rejects his sexual advances into the equation, quickly becomes a very highly attractive solution for a man. The ease and the quick-hitting dopamine release a man receives offers a suspension of the reality of his real life and instead allows him to just sexually check out from his marriage altogether. The fact is, real intimacy with another person is much harder than clicking a button. You've got to consider your partner's pleasure, and the thing that turns you on might not align with what turns her on. Maybe his wife might not be into experimenting, or she might find some of the things that he's into off-putting, which oftentimes can make him feel judged and ashamed. So guys can skip the hassle and opt for that quick and easy release that this adult entertainment provides, where any and every imaginable fetish can be fulfilled by an unquestioning, non-judgmental, enthusiastic hot chick who's always ready to go. Now, the downsides, however, are real and brutal. Excessive use can completely rewire a man's brain, making it tough to get aroused by a real woman. It's linked to erectile dysfunction. It creates unrealistic expectations of how a regular, normal, real woman should show up and how she should act, and just skews his perception of sex in general. He forgets that these digital women are actors. He might not clock that, especially if he's already feeling broken inside from his wife's constant rejection. So when she's saying no and his sexual energy is charged, his cell phone is just always ready to go. And what starts off as a here and there supplement can easily spiral into a nasty habit. Now, is it an addiction? Well, personally, I'm skeptical of that label. You don't see guys wandering the streets, strung out on this adult entertainment, much like you do with heroin or meth. It's probably more like a bad habit that the man leaned into really hard. Still, there's likely a small segment of those users who generally cross into that legit compulsive territory. Some women will view this behavior as cheating, which I personally think is absurd, and she can get emotionally hurt and feel inadequate if he watches it. which will often force him into hiding to mitigate against that fallout, creating an even greater distance in their emotional connection, with that added element of secrecy now coming into play. When this entertainment becomes a man's go-to, it can kill his desire for his wife, not because he doesn't love her, but because his brain's dopamine circuits got hijacked, making instant gratification the default. This can lead to real intimacy feeling like too much work, especially if the marriage is already strained. And it serves as a means for a man to completely just ignore his marital problems instead of seeking real-life solutions. But I believe for most men who consume this type of entertainment, particularly for those men who have been sexually starved by his wife for many years, it serves more as a tool for the man not to physically cheat. It serves as a tool for him to stay in the marriage. We cannot discount how often a woman is showing up sexually for her husband in this equation. The truth is, if women embrace the 10-to-1 yes to no ratio that I just mentioned before, then the majority of men would gladly never ingest that garbage to begin with. And while it's not a guarantee that it would end a man's use 100% of the time, most men would choose steak over ground beef all day long if steak is offered. Another harmful dopamine fix is daily marijuana use. Consumption of marijuana has increased 25% in the last 5 years due to its legalization in nearly half of the states in the U.S. A 2022 Gallup poll says 16% of men ages 18 to 64 use weed daily. And as with anything else, there are no free lunches, there are benefits, and there are downfalls. And the downfalls of using marijuana daily is a decrease in motivation and a decrease to a man's sex drive. I know a woman who is dating a man. They're both in their 30s, and they've only been dating each other probably for like 6 to 9 months. So they're definitely still in the honeymoon phase. And she was telling me that he only wants sex with her like once a week. And it's making her question, like, does he not find her attractive? And this woman, you guys, you should see, she's a smoke show. She's super hot. And she even asked him, she's like, do I not turn you on? He's like, yeah, no, you do. So it's already kind of getting into her head. And she says, well, I think it's because he smokes weed every day. And she goes on to explain that he has to smoke weed because of his brain is ADHD and he can't sleep otherwise. And he has flat told her, this is a hard line. I'm not giving up weed. And I can't help but think that if his drive is already low due to his daily consumption of marijuana, what's that going to look like for the relationship long term? As I play out this scenario, once that honeymoon dies down and there's just going to be a natural dip to her drive, they'll probably settle in on the once a week frequency like every other average couple. And then the kids will come along and then it will decrease from there. And then she'll probably get pissed off because now he's smoking in front of the kids. I just see this becoming a huge problem in the future. So smoking marijuana daily will definitely hit a man's libido hard. A 2018 Sexual Medicine Review study noted that 20 to 30% of regular male cannabis users report less sexual frequency or desire, with daily users being hit the hardest. Some showed up to a 40% decrease in sexual activity, and desire isn't the only thing hit. A 2010 European urology study linked daily marijuana use to a 30% higher increased risk of erectile dysfunction, which can make a man avoid sex altogether. These dopamine distractions, the online adult entertainment, and the use of cannabis, they're easy, instant gratification with no effort, and they can easily become a man's go-to over real-life intimacy. It can rewire your brain, it can dull your motivation, and it's going to make having sex with an actual real human feel like just too much work. While they are different, they both share the similar brain reward pathway that reduces interest in partnered sex. But ladies, I'm not going to let you off the hook here. You got to always ask yourself how you are contributing to the situation. While there are marriages where a woman is frequently available and the guy chooses the adult online entertainment over her, this is not the norm. It is usually in response to a woman who has consistently turned him down for many, many years. A woman's willingness and ability and attitude about sex in general all plays a part in the equation. So if your husband goes from wanting to have sex with you frequently and then slowly that desire fades, his quick fix dopamine hits may be one of the reasons why. The sixth reason why your husband does not want to sleep with you is that he's cheating. As we moved along in this video and the last video, we kind of almost see a series of events that can lead a married man to be susceptible to cheating. Typically, it starts with the highly disagreeable and contentious woman who not only doesn't prop him up or make him feel loved and adored, but actively strives to emasculate him with her words and actions. This then continues with her sexually rejecting him over a long period of time, leaving him a shell of a man, void of any emotional connection with her. Then along comes Susie Q at the office, who showers him with all kinds of attention, all kinds of praise. And next thing you know, he feels alive again. He's feeling like a man for the first time in many years. He's refilling things he forgot even exist. And it's all too irresistible. And he starts cheating. Now, I am not excusing any man for that decision. However, I do refuse to judge him. Because there are far too many times when this happens that the blame all goes to the man. No one looks at the woman's toxic behavior that sets up the perfect circumstance and environment for this to happen. And then the wife will act all shocked. I can't believe he would do this to me. How can Bob just throw away 20 years of marriage for a quick romp in the sack? And women still don't get that when a man cheats. Many times it has nothing to do with the sex itself. It was about him feeling seen and heard and feeling important as a man for the first time in many, many years. And for a woman's willingness and pleasure in receiving the love that he had to offer. So unless the man is a complete dog, and there are certainly some of those out there, I view cheating simply as the next domino to fall in a predictable sequence of events. I'm kind of like, what did you expect to happen? The majority of men take marriage vows very seriously. They do not just one day wake up and say, well, today's the day I'm going to cheat on my wife. Most of the time, it's a series of circumstances that set the man up to fail. Married men desire nothing more than to be faithful and monogamous with his own wife. But the fact is, a starving man is still a starving man. And no matter how mentally strong his mindset is or how much willpower he musters, there will come a time that any food looks good, even junk food. And anyone who's ever been on a diet knows what I'm talking about. So if a man stops wanting to sleep with his wife, sometimes it's because he's finally getting that very real need met from someone else. And this does not necessarily mean that he doesn't love his wife or find her physically unattractive. In fact, many of the times the guy will cheat on a woman who is significantly less attractive than his wife, and she doesn't understand why. And it's because it wasn't about the sex, as it was about feeling seen and heard and a woman's willingness to receive his love. Nor does it mean that he would probably even be interested in getting a divorce. He simply was fulfilling a need that he wanted to get from his wife but couldn't. The seventh reason why your husband won't sleep with you is that he plays for the other team. 3 to 5% of men in the U.S. identify as homosexual. And if you do the math, that translates into about 3 to 5 million men. And before the legalization of gay marriage, 20% of gay men reported that they had, or at one point, been married to a woman. That's about 1 million marriages where a gay man chose to marry a woman. And this figure doesn't even take into account the number of men who identify as bisexual. And while this was probably more prevalent in the past when the social stigma of that lifestyle was much higher than it is today, the legalization of same-sex marriages has probably certainly helped in this arena. That doesn't mean that it went away altogether. The fact is, even today, there are still gay men who, despite their sexual orientation, will still choose to marry a woman for reasons like familial acceptance, religious beliefs, career implications, or his desire to have kids or to have a normal family life, just from the men who knew they were gay when they got married. Some men don't even realize it until after the fact. And most men are going to hide the fact that they're gay from their wife because, well, he can't be truthful with her and he can even love the woman. But loving someone and having that raw sexual attraction to them are two different things. It only makes sense that if you're not attracted to women, that having sex with one would be quite unappealing. And therefore, if a woman is married to a man who appears to be great in every other way, you know, he's a good husband, he's an involved father, he brings that best friend energy, he helps around the house, he dresses well, he likes to go shopping with you, he likes to go to the farmer's market, but he hasn't ever really seemed to be thirsting much for you now or in the past. He seems to be just as content with or without it. I would start seriously looking into how much time he spends with other men and how many guy trips he takes. It very well could be that he simply plays for the other team. Well, there you have it. All 7 reasons. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And if you've made it this far, you might as well hit that like and subscribe button. And make sure you stick around and watch the next video, which YouTube seems to think you're really going to love. And with that, I'll see you next time.